Clara Holt was stopped at the entrance of the shooting range, her tattered jacket and vintage rifle, looking like a relic from a bygone era, drawing wary glances. VIP lanes aren't for wanderers, the receptionist barked, his eyes scanning her as if she were an outsider. A cocky teenager scoffed. What? They're letting custodians in now. Clara stayed quiet, flashing her VIP pass and striding past the taunts, through the scorn, until 10 perfect shots silenced every last one of them. Sterling Elite Range stood as a monument to precision, its sleek glass and steel facade gleaming under the California sun like a sharpened blade. Inside, the air was thick with gunpowder and privilege. Each lane was a platform for the ultra-rich, decorated military elite and athletic prodigies. Gleaming black marble floors reflected LED lights, and digital scoreboards blazed with names tied to power: senators' heirs, Olympic champions, tech barons. Membership here wasn't just a purchase. It was a birthright, costing more than most could ever afford. Gold-framed portraits of world champions lined the walls, their gazes as cold as their aim. Beyond a velvet rope, the elite stood apart from the unworthy, and today, Clara Holt found herself on the outside. At 23, Clara was a silent force, her raw beauty striking in its simplicity. Her chestnut hair, tied in a loose braid, caught the light like fading coals, and her green eyes, fierce yet soulful, could stop a heart. She carried an M1 Garand, its woodstock worn smooth by time, slung over her shoulder like a piece of history. Her father, Colonel James Holt, had been a legendary sniper, a shadow who ended wars with a single bullet, and he'd trained her on rugged backwoods ranges, teaching her to breathe with the trigger. After his death, Clara vowed to uphold his legacy, but to the crowd, she was a nobody in second-hand clothes, her presence an affront to their exclusivity. The receptionist, Simon, with his slick haircut and biting sneer, blocked her path at the gate. "This range isn't for just anyone," he said, his voice dripping with disdain, loud enough to turn heads. "VIP lanes are for members, not whatever you are." He flicked his eyes at her rifle, then her worn olive jacket. A kid in a $4,000 tracksuit, Liam Drake, son of a finance mogul, leaned against a pillar, smirking. "They letting in the cleaning crew now?" he taunted, sparking laughter from his group. Clara's fingers brushed her VIP pass, a faded card earned through her father's valor and loyalty. She held it out, her voice steady. "I'm a guest." Simon's smirk faltered as the scanner blinked green, but he stepped aside, muttering, "This is a mistake." The crowd parted, their chuckles a gauntlet as Clara stepped inside. In the lounge, the range's live stream became a digital gallows, phones glowing as members posted in real time, their captions a public execution. "Charity shooter," one post sneered, zooming in on her scuffed boots. "She's a fraud." Another read, shared by a congressman's son. Sophia Kane, a sharpshooter with a model's grace, raised her voice for the stream to catch. "Look at her, thinking she belongs here," she mocked, pointing at Clara's jacket. "This is Sterling, not a scrapyard." The crowd roared, their laughter a weapon. Comments flooded the feed. "Kick her out. She's a thief." A boy shouted, "Bet she pulled that pass from a dumpster." Clara's hands remained steady, her green eyes fixed forward, but her mother's face on the live stream, pale with pain, betrayed the sting of each word. The audience's fury swelled, their outrage at this orchestrated cruelty a spark ready to ignite. The range's interior was a cathedral of competition, its 50-meter lanes stretching beneath a soaring ceiling. Digital screens tracked every shot, and the hum of ventilation mixed with the sharp crack of gunfire. Members lounged in leather chairs, sipping overpriced lattes, their rifles etched with custom designs. Clara's jacket drew stares like a crack in a mirror. A trust fund heir, Mason Lyle, sprawled in a chair, his $12,000 rifle at his side. "Even the janitors get in now," he snorted, his voice carrying across the lounge. His clique, a pack of prep school elites, laughed, their eyes slicing Clara's jeans. "She here to polish the targets?" One jeered, tossing a spent casing at her feet. Clara stepped over it, her expression serene, her silence a shield against their venom. A range instructor, Professor Evelyn Marsh, stepped forward from the coaching staff, her tailored blazer a stark contrast to Clara's faded jacket. "This is unprecedented," she said, her tone laced with false pity, loud enough for all to hear. "Sterling is for professionals, not charity cases with relics." She gestured at Clara's rifle, her diamond earrings glinting. "Your presence undermines our standards. A community range might suit you better." The crowd nodded, some clapping, their elitism a wall around Clara. "Leave now, and we'll forget this embarrassment," Marsh added, her words a deliberate cut. Clara's braid shifted as she adjusted her rifle, her green eyes flickering with buried resolve, though her face stayed calm. Her mother's hands clenched on the live stream, the instructor's condescension a wound to Clara's rightful place. The audience's anger simmered, their disgust at this authoritative attack a raw ache. In the VIP lane, Sophia Kane, with her $6,000 custom optics and glossy blonde waves, tweaked her scope. She glanced at Clara, her lip curling. "This is a training ground, not a budget war film reenactment," she said, her voice cutting, amplified by the live stream mic above. The range's social media buzzed, comments piling up. "Who's this nobody? Get her out." The head coach, Colonel Vincent Reed, a grizzled ex-Marine with a chest full of medals, stood nearby, his irritation playing. "You sure you know which end of that rifle to hold?" he growled, his tone dripping with doubt. Clara met his gaze, her green eyes unwavering. "I'll figure it out," she said softly, her words a quiet vow. The crowd snickered, their phones poised for her failure. Nathaniel Vaughn, the range's golden boy, was a 25-year-old with dark curls, a chiseled jaw, and eyes that could charm or burn. His tailored black tactical gear and $60,000 custom rifle gleamed like a predator's tool. He'd just fired 9.9, 9.8, 9.7, his scores flashing on the digital board to roars of approval. Spotting Clara, his grin turned predatory. "Beat me, and I'm gone," he said, his voice smooth and mocking, loud for the live stream. "But if I win, you're out, janitor." The crowd erupted, their laughter a tidal wave. Nathaniel leaned closer, his breath warm. "No pressure, sweetheart." Clara didn't flinch. She nodded once, her silence louder than their jeers. The live stream audience seethed, rooting for Clara to shatter their arrogance. The mockery didn't relent as Clara set up at lane 8. Liam Drake sauntered over, his tracksuit screaming wealth. "That rifle's a fossil," he sneered, his voice carrying to the stream. "Bet it falls apart before you shoot." He flicked a coffee stirrer at her feet, grinning. "Pick it up, cleaning lady." The crowd laughed, their phones recording, captions forming. "Range trash." Sophia adjusted her optics, her voice sharp. "You're embarrassing yourself, Han. Go home before you shoot your foot off." Coach Reed stepped closer, his clipboard raised like a judge's gavel. "This is an elite facility," he said, his tone patronizing. "We don't have time for amateurs with relics." Clara's hands moved with quiet precision, loading her rifle, her face a mask of calm. Her mother's face, watching the live stream from a hospital bed, crumpled, each insult a blow to her daughter's pride. The range's social media was a battlefield, posts piling on. "Hey, scrapyard shooter," one read. zooming in on Clara's faded jeans. "She's a fake," another commented, shared by a politician's daughter. In the lounge, Mason Lal stood, his voice booming. "Why's she here? This is our range, not a soup kitchen shoot." The crowd cheered, their elitism a fortress around Clara. A girl in a designer jacket, Ava Wren, tossed a crumpled score sheet at Clara's feet, calling, "Clean that up, janitor." The paper skidded across the floor, grazing her boots, but Clara didn't pause. Her braid swayed as she checked her rifle, her green eyes locked on the target 50 meters out. The audience's rage burned, their fury at the mob's cruelty a fire ready to erupt. The taunts grew sharper as Clara stood at the lane. A retired general, now a range consultant, leaned toward Coach Reed, his voice carrying to the stream. "This is what happens when you let scholarships in," he muttered, gesturing at Clara. "No breeding, no skill." The crowd murmured agreement, their phones flashing, capturing Clara's stillness. Sophia, her optics gleaming, called out, "You're a walking embarrassment, girl. Leave before you make us all look bad." Liam Drake added, "Bet she's never fired a gun. Probably stole that pass." The laughter swelled, a vicious chorus, each word a stone hurled at Clara's dignity. Her fingers brushed her rifle, a faint tremor the only sign of tension, but her face remained serene, her silence a wall against their scorn. Nathaniel shot first, his movement smooth, his rifle an extension of his will. The board flashed 10, 9.9, 10, 10, near perfection, his grouping tight as a fist. The crowd roared, clapping, their smirks aimed at Clara. "Good luck, thrift store," Nathaniel called, his grin cocky, his eyes daring her to crumble. The live stream comments surged, "She's toast. No way she tops that." Clara stepped to the line, her M1 Garand steady in her hands. The crowd hushed, their phones raised, ready for her humiliation. She exhaled, her body still, her focus a laser. 50 meters out, a tiny red centered among countless rings. The audience held their breath, their anger at her treatment a pulse in their veins. Shot 1, 10. The board chimed, a soft ping slicing the silence. Murmurs rippled. "Lucky shot." Mason scoffed, crossing his arms. Clara didn't blink. Shot 2, 10. The ping returned, sharper now. Sophia's optics slipped, her smirk fading. Shot 3, 10. The range's rare melody for 3 perfect shots played, stunning the crowd. Their laughter died. "Beginner's luck," Liam muttered, his voice cracking. Clara's face stayed calm, her green eyes locked on the target. The live stream audience leaned closer, sensing a storm brewing. Shot 4, 10. The melody rang again, louder, insistent. Coach Reed's clipboard trembled in his hands. Shot 5, 10. A headset clattered to the floor, dropped by a stunned athlete. Shot 6, 10. The range was a graveyard, every eye on Clara, her faded jacket a beacon under the lights. Nathaniel's grin was gone, his jaw tight, his eyes narrowing. The live stream exploded. "Who is this girl? This is insane." Clara's braids swayed as she adjusted her grip, her movements precise, almost sacred. The audience's anger turned to awe, their faith in her growing with each shot. Shot 7, 10. The melody was a hymn now, echoing off the steel walls. Mason's face paled, his bravado crumbling. Shot 8, 10. Sophia ripped off her optics, her hands shaking. Shot 9, 10. The crowd stood frozen, their phones lowered, their mockery a distant memory. Shot 10. Perfect center, overlapping the first bullet, not a millimeter off. The board flashed a new record, 100. The melody played one final time, triumphant, as the system announced, "Facility record broken." Clara lowered her rifle, her breath steady, her green eyes sweeping the room. The audience roared, their hearts soaring, her triumph a blaze that burned away their scorn. She turned, calm and unshaken, and spoke, her voice soft but piercing. "My father taught me to shoot when I was 6, she said, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. "He was the top sniper in his unit while you were still learning to swipe a screen." The crowd parted, their heads bowed, their earlier cruelty a weight they couldn't shake. Coach Reed, the ex-Marine, rose from his chair, his eyes shining with respect. He began to clap, slow and deliberate, the sound echoing in the stillness. One by one, others joined, the applause swelling into a tide of reckoning. Nathaniel stood frozen, his mouth twitching, his heart stumbling as he caught her smile. A fleeting spark that unraveled him. Nathaniel Vaughn stood rooted, his once cocky grin replaced by a flush of shame as Clara's perfect 100 glowed on the board. Her smile, faint but radiant, hit him like a spark, his heart tripping over itself. I was an idiot," he said, his voice breaking, loud enough for the live stream. "You're not just better, you're untouchable." The crowd's silence was heavy, their earlier jeers now a collective wound. Nathaniel's eyes, once sharp with arrogance, softened, tracing Clara's quiet poise, her faded jacket now a badge of honor. The live stream comments shifted. "He's done. She's a queen." Coach Reed nodded, his voice booming. "Mr. Vaughn, your scores are no longer the standard. Step aside." Nathaniel's shoulders slumped, but his gaze lingered on Clara, her smile a quiet fire that lit something new in him. The audience cheered, their hearts soaring as Nathaniel's fall and Clara's rise intertwined, her triumph a blade that cut through his pride. Nathaniel's face burned, his 10s and 9.9s, now a public humiliation. He'd mocked her, challenged her, and lost in front of everyone. The live stream captured his pale shock, comments flooding. She destroyed him. Clara's a legend. He stepped forward, his voice low, almost reverent. "I was wrong," he said, his eyes searching hers. "You're incredible." Clara nodded, her smile faint but warm, a spark that caught him off guard. The crowd watched, their silence a canvas for her victory. Coach Reed approached, his voice gruff but proud. "That was the finest shooting I've seen in 40 years, he said. "Your father's legacy lives in you." Clara's eyes softened, her promise kept, her mission complete. The range's director, General Frederick Wells, stepped forward, his silver hair catching the LED lights. His voice resonated across the lanes. "Clara Holt has redefined excellence," he declared, his words broadcast to the live stream. "Her record of 100 is now Sterling's benchmark." He turned to the staff, his gaze stern. "Those who mocked her, Simon, Professor Marsh, face suspension pending review. Standards here are about skill, not status." The crowd gasped, the guilty shrinking, their arrogance crumbling. Wells raised a hand, unveiling a digital plaque on the screen. "Clara Holt, record holder." Clara stood tall, her smile a quiet glow catching Nathaniel's eye again, his heart racing at her grace. The live stream audience roared, their applause echoing online. Hashtag Clara Holt trending as a symbol of truth. The audience's hearts swelled, Clara's victory a permanent mark on the range's legacy. The range's hierarchy crumbled in that moment. Liam Drake slunk to the lounge, his tracksuit no shield against the whispers. She owned him. Sophia packed her gear, her modeling contract suddenly fragile, her arrogance a memory. Mason's boasts died in his throat, his rifle untouched, his clique avoiding his gaze. The live stream trended globally. Hashtag Clara Holt flooding social media, her 10 shots a myth in the making. The general who'd mocked her breeding stood, his face red, muttering an apology lost in the applause. Ava Wren, the scoresheet tosser, slipped out, her designer jacket no armor against the shame. The range's elite were humbled, their exclusivity shattered by a girl with a faded rifle. Nathaniel lingered, his cockiness replaced by curiosity, then awe. He approached Clara later. As the crowd thinned, his voice soft. "Can we talk? I owe you everything." Clara's smile grew, her green eyes meeting his, and she nodded, a new chapter dawning as the applause faded. Nathaniel approached Clara again, his usual swagger gone, replaced by a quiet intensity. "I don't deserve your time," he said, his voice low, his eyes locked on her smile, that faint, radiant curve that had undone him. "But I'd be a fool not to try. You're not just a shooter, you're a force." The crowd watched, their silence a canvas for his vulnerability, the live stream capturing every word. "He's in love." Clara's green eyes met his, her smile deepening, a spark that lit his world. "Coffee's a start," she said, her voice soft but warm, a bridge between them. The range's staff paused, their respect for Clara now absolute, her record a new North Star. Nathaniel's heart raced, her smile the moment he'd fallen, the beginning of something unstoppable. The audience's hearts soared, their satisfaction complete as Clara's triumph sparked love, her victory a legend sealed in 10 perfect shots. The range's staff updated the leaderboard, Clara's name now etched at the top, a permanent rebuke to their scorn. The crowd, once a wall of scorn, now stood in awe, their phones lowered, their earlier cruelty a bitter memory. A young athlete, previously silent, stepped forward, her voice trembling. "I was wrong to laugh," she said, her eyes on Clara. "You're what this range should be." Others nodded, their applause swelling, a tide of respect that drowned their past insults. Clara's smile, soft but piercing, caught Nathaniel's gaze again, his heart lurching as he saw her strength in its quiet glow. The live stream captured the shift, comments flooding. "She changed everything." Hashtag Clara inspires. Even the general who'd mocked her breeding clapped, his face red with shame, his earlier words now dust. Clara stood serene, her faded jacket a symbol of victory, her triumph reshaping the range's soul. The audience's hearts thundered, their anger transformed into pride, Clara's skill a beacon for all who'd been overlooked. The live stream audience chanted her name, their anger turned to triumph, her victory a beacon for the dismissed. 1 month later, Clara and Nathaniel were dating, their bond forged in the crucible of that day. Nathaniel, once a prince of privilege, learned to see the world through Clara's eyes, strength earned, not bought. 3 months later, he proposed, the ring simple but perfect, like her. They married in a quiet ceremony, the range's plaque now reading, "Clara Holt, record holder, 100. Sterling Elite Range was no longer just for the elite. It was hers, reshaped by a girl in faded jeans who'd silenced them all with 10 perfect shots. Clara Holt didn't need their praise. She was the bullet that hit the mark. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this.